Hello, everybody. Welcome to the discussion of Module 8. How about let's get started with our meeting today. Today we're covering chapters 9 and 10 about collaborating and meetings. And even though I may not answer all the questions this time, there's a lot of material to cover, so I'll try to rush through it. So starting with chapter 9, collaborating in teams. Explain how the personality and characteristics of team members influence team role development. And how does an individual work out their role to balance the expectations of self and others? Now, in Chapter 9, in Section 9.2.1, there's a quote that your role on a team is the consistent way you communicate with others on the team. Also, the natural way that you tend to step up or back down from taking responsibility or asserting yourself in the roles. So from the evidence in a 2005 article in the Small Group Research Journal, your personality and that of others have a major influence in role development. Also in 1948, the authors Benny and Sheets from the Journal of Social Issues define what is now a classic way of identifying roles in groups. That is, based on your title, you may be expected to lead in decision making, or based on your personality, you may naturally want to give your strong opinions. And this depends on trust building in the team, whether that works, whether anyone can just step in and do what their personality usually expresses, or if it's purely based on who's already established themselves, or they've got a title, they've got seniority. Now, the boss may need to pull rank sometimes, or team members may actually withdraw if they feel like they're not getting fair consideration. So some examples from the book of task roles. In table 9.1, there are things like the initiator, information seeker, opinion seeker, orienter, energizer, procedural technician, etc. Now, examine how a manager should enhance cohesiveness within a team in order to accomplish the team's goals. In section 9.3, it talks about improving team dynamics. And an important part of this is cohesiveness, the ability and resolve to work together constructively, such as trust, confidence, openness to genuinely challenging each other. And there are specific factors in team dynamics. The manager and the team should establish clear ground rules. Make sure that the team has a clear mission statement, clear and elevating goals, manage differences in power and status, and as the question was getting to, enhancing cohesiveness. These are all part of improving team dynamics. So moving on to table 9.5, which gives suggestions on enhancing cohesiveness. The important function of a leader is to set the tone and culture of a group. Especially, don't let the things go bad. Talk about the team as a we instead of an I. Reinforce good attendance or behavior at meetings. Establish and maintain group traditions. Set clear goals. Encourage everyone to participate. Celebrate group accomplishments. Emphasize and promote teamwork and collaboration. To me, the most important thing in that list, though, was to set good habits and precedents. Don't shy away from ending bad ones, confronting someone if they're doing something that's not constructive, and always be sure to openly give credit, to give encouraging words where it's due. Discuss the differences between cohesive and uncohesive teams. In 9.3.5, how to enhance team cohesiveness. We get this quote from the Three Musketeers, one for all and all for one. Now, I personally have been confused by the Three Musketeers because you always see them running around sword fighting. I don't know if I have ever seen them shooting guns, so are they like bayonetists? Do they have swords mounted to their guns, but they threw their guns away? Don't know. So there's a high degree of loyalty to one another in this group, though. They're especially famous for being cohesive. In that motto, one for all and all for one, they all have personal goals that match the team's goals. So they're all intertwined in what they're trying to accomplish, and they're dedicated to watching each other and watching out for everyone else instead of individuals with their own agendas. So you can form numerous natural factors. This can form from natural factors such as similar goals, genuinely liking each other, similar background, same religion, same military unit, same professional sports team that they like. And it could be that emotional needs are satisfied by being involved. The antithesis of this is different background, different allegiance or beliefs, dislike of each other, different religion. And so these things are what I would say are naturally occurring. It's just your natural inclination to like the people you're with or have the same background or decide that you have the same thing that you're striving for. But I'd say that's a little different from consciously identifying that you have a team goal as a team that you're all trying to accomplish. And so if there's a high degree of trust, you know the others in the team have got your back and you dedicate yourself to watching theirs. You are all there to complete the mission rather than just to pursue individual agendas. All right, so we're going to move ahead to talking about Chapter 10, which is Enhancing Team Meetings. And it's funny that the chapter begins telling a story about death by meetings, or the humorist that said that a meeting is a lot like a funeral, that people are wearing uncomfortable clothes, they don't want to be there, but in a meeting, nothing really important, nothing is being accomplished, no one's being buried. So the question is, does attending a staff meeting or a briefing in the name of a meeting itself enlighten an employee? By definition in the book, no way. In the case, the goal of the meeting is to hold and attend the meeting in itself. Like intrinsically, all you're doing is checking a box to saying, yes, we're in a meeting, which does not serve any further objectives. It will feel like a frustrating waste of time for most everyone that's there. Now, in some cases, the leader just feels that they need to assert themselves, and that's the basic way that they know how to do that. They're going to hold a meeting, get everyone's attention. Or it may be just company policy to hold a meeting, but without giving any clear objectives. It's just on the schedule, or it's intended, or you've always done it. A very significant decision in preparation of a meeting is whether to hold it in person at all. As 10.2.1 puts it, the cardinal rule of meetings is meet only when you have a reason to meet. Rule number 1 of meetings is have a reason to meet. It may be common sense, but it's not common practice. So here's when it is needed. When there are specific goals and objectives, you're answering a specific question, resolving an issue, having an action item to follow up with. Next is collaboration. When it's a big task, there's a lot of information to sort through to solve a problem. You need to be together to work that out. Also, uncertainty. If there is uncertainty, you want to reduce that, manage it, give clear and accurate information. If someone's heard a rumor, you want to be ahead of that to make sure that people are well informed and they hear it from you directly. Resistance. If there are some that don't like the idea, they're likely to put up opposition, to not comply. You want to seek honest input and participation in overcoming these holdouts. You want to make sure everyone is on board, and you also want to give the opportunity to take input. See if it's really an unpopular decision, ask why or what they would do differently. Okay, also if you need to pull information from multiple sources, multiple experts, departments, subject matter experts, specialists, you'd pull them all together to give their reports and to get some different perspectives on what's going on from the bigger picture. Also, if it's a complex job, big, difficult to break down, multi-stage, it's useful to have people there in person to work it out and to see the pieces, fit them together, break them down. And establish what constitutes a good meeting. A good meeting is formed with a good purpose, with planning and execution. 10.2.3 talks about developing the meeting agenda. An important tool for identifying the goals, setting the order of issues, and to get the best interaction is using an agenda. It's important, if it's just information, you could just send out a memo. That means if you're only going to convey routine information, you're just going to give like a status report on the numbers, whatever, you might as well send out a memo that contains that information where there's no input needed, where there's no benefit to bring the team together. Then you'd be saving people time if you just send it out in writing. One of the main reasons for holding a meeting then is for the benefits of collaboration. One of the greatest reasons for bringing people together is harnessing that talent, that information sharing, that being able to see the other people in person that you may work with from a distance. So you're taking the opportunity to give and take feedback on the issues. You could say a good meeting is where you feel charged with taking decisive action and you are aligned with the rest of the team. Next, examine the various methods of problem solving. Assess the types of questions that need to be considered while defining and analyzing a problem to develop an action plan. In 10.3, talking about planning problem-solving meetings, with the power of collaboration, teams are often called on to solve challenging problems. That means that usually when it's a complex issue, you need to pull together a specific group of team to tackle that issue. And so that's where you, as a team leader, a manager, you need to have a good strategy for how to pull those talents together and keep it well organized. 10.3.1 covers the nature of problem solving. Problem solving consists of three elements, where there's an undesirable existing condition, you have a goal that the team wants to accomplish, and there are obstacles that prevent the team from achieving that goal. So with this in mind, if you can identify those three elements, then you move on to defining it in frames of the typical, you want something as more or less of a problem. Either you want more sales or you want less costly errors. You need to be able to break down what is the essence of this problem, and a lot of times it's easy to put it in those terms. So referring to the 1910 work from Dewey's How We Think, it's considered a classic in defining these steps. Number one is identify and define the problem. What do we want more or less of? Identify the problem. That means you may just have an uneasiness or a doubt about something, but you need to actually figure out what is the exact issue that you're addressing. Next is analyze the problem. Try to get to the root issue or the cause. Break it down into components. See if there are multiple factors or issues that are building up to this detriment or this lack of some thing you need. 3, generate possible solutions. This is where you get into brainstorming, running simulations, studies, getting more data. This is where you go through, hopefully it's a pretty broad and deep analysis and creative brainstorming session to figure out what possible approaches you could take. So then you select the best one. After you've worked out what are the best ones, you've worked out things that fit within your constraints, you've decided amongst the team which one will work best, which will be least costly, quickest to implement, easiest to implement, will get the best adoption. You're going to select that one based on its values, profits, ethics. Next is test and implement. You could take a small step by doing a pilot test, taking a survey. If it's a movie, you could do a test screening to see what a small audience thinks. And once you have gotten enough feedback and you're happy with the answer, then you commit to it. You actually go out and do it. Discuss the various techniques of brainstorming and explain how each technique is interrelated and used along with traditional methods. So one of my favorite things to do is when there's a problem to actually analyze the problem and brainstorm it. Consider all possible approaches. Consider the full range from ethical, stupid, expensive, impossible. It's just fun to consider what all the options are. And that's the essence of brainstorming. It's a group activity, usually in person, where you set a time limit, let's say an hour, where all you're going to do is just talk and you're going to say dumb, ridiculous ideas. No one's going to judge. No one's going to compliment you or criticize you on what you said. It's just everything's fair and put it all out on the table. Someone's on the side recording it so that you can hopefully not take permanent evidence on what you said, but at least you have a chance to record all these different ideas because you're going to circle back to them, and that's where you can then start judging whether an idea is not feasible. I don't think it's very nice to say it's a stupid idea, but you could say just what is not it's not something that we can work with. It's illegal, costs too much money, we can never get it done within the age of the universe, that sort of thing. All right. So this can be perilous because you're going to be identified probably. You're doing this in person, so you can be identified that you said this idea where it's going to be something, like morally repugnant. It's going to be a really bad idea, and you said it, and you're on record. So there's a peril that because you might come up with an idea that's terrible, others will connect you to it, judge you, and remember it, and you can never live it down. All right. So this it makes me imagine the scene, some team of engineers in the movie Soylent Green. I'm sure there's one guy in a brainstorming session. Someone said, "Let's make it out of people." Eventually, the rest of the team warmed up to the idea, but maybe at first it sounded like a terrible idea, but it actually worked out to be what they did. They made the green Soylent out of people. So there are other forms of creative problem solving. 10.4.2 talks about silent brainstorming, or the nominal group. Silent brainstorming, usually not in person, so there's not so much fear of being identified. You work separately. You only share ideas after they've been written down, composed, maybe analyzed individually, and then they're submitted to a moderator. The nominal group means in name only. You're putting these ideas together. You're doing it individually, separately, apart from each other, and it's maybe someone else gathers all the results and they get to analyze them. But the idea here is it's kind of a step back, a little bit of abstraction. You're still free to come up with all the crazy ideas, but you're going to take some time to think about it before you submit it. And then there's someone in the middle that then takes them in and then shares them with the group to consider and to criticize. So even more anonymous then is 10.4.3 absentee brainstorming, also known as the Delphi technique. There's a moderator that receives submissions and shares it to the group, but no one is identified. This is useful to protect against individuals or groups that have conflict, or in a situation where you've got great distances or time conflicts where people just can't get together. All ideas are given equal merit because they should not be tied to anyone's status or reputation. This is really useful because everyone's free again to come up with the ideas, to submit them, and then you can just really get crazy with the ideas because no one's going to know it was you, hopefully. All right. Thanks everyone for listening. I hope you got some good action items out of this meeting. And so, break!